and if you're going to give a state of the market speech to U.S. investors, what would your main points be as far as what we should know and how we should be viewing the U.S. markets right now?
Yeah, I think valuations remain persistently and dangerously high. And so just investing in S&P 500, you're going to get very mediocre returns over the next few years, probably just a couple of percent in real terms. So I would focus very much on defensive stocks. Consumer staples are looking good. Food, you see 2 more food buyouts just today that were announced. I think that's a great place to take shelter. Telecom is finally starting to get going again. Energy looks pretty cheap. But overall, I'd be cautious about just sticking money in an index fund because I think returns are going to be pretty lousy.
So that being said, then looping back in what we were just talking about in terms of emerging markets, how do you see the U.S. markets as compared to emerging markets, and then even like China and Europe? Like, where do you see those cycles coming together as far as the best opportunity versus, where to stay away from?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say if you're putting money to work for, let's call it a 5-year time horizon, I would much rather have money in emerging markets than developed markets. But it's important to remember that the beta in emerging markets is way higher than the U.S. And so if the U.S. drops 10%, then a lot of these emerging markets are going to be down 20 or 25% in the short run.
So emerging markets offer greater return possibilities over the next few years, but they don't offer any protection necessarily from any kind of U.S. downturn.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Well, that's not fun.
No, this is the issue. I mean, the central banks have pumped so much money into the world's economy, and it hasn't really created the sort of inflation in real prices that they'd hoped. Instead, it's just driven asset prices up. And so as they try to unwind a lot of their easing, they're going to get asset prices going down in large portions of the world.
Well, that raises another significant point. Do you see the unwinding that is supposed to be being initiated by the U.S. Fed and by some other major central banks? Do you see that being having a significant impact on markets?
Oh, absolutely. And it may not be overnight, but when central banks go from being one of the biggest net buyers of assets, bonds, but also stocks, when they go and they start bringing out the sell tickets, that's a huge change. Like Japan, their central bank has bought up 20% of their ETFs in their local stock market, and they've scaled that back dramatically now. The Fed's is pretty much done. The Swiss are slowing down.
So with that being the case, you said it will have a big impact, but maybe not right away. Why do you see it that way?
Well, you still have the ECB is still adding a lot of liquidity, so I think overall, I'd have to check. I haven't looked at the data in a couple of months, but the central banks as a whole are still adding liquidity to the market. But it's that we should cross over in 2018 to where they're not adding more.
So in 2018, we'll become probably a net negative in terms of cash flow.
Mm-hmm. And ultimately, the U.S. is the most important market, and the Fed is pretty persistently hiking interest rates now.
So you mentioned, obviously, so the ECB is still pumping liquidity in the markets will kind of stem any kind of larger negative impact, but ultimately, all of that liquidity being removed, or not even neutral, but actually being pulled out, will have to affect asset prices somehow. And then, as there has been for years and years, there's going to be those thoughts that people have, just brace themselves for the next big crash and bracing themselves for the fact that, well, the Fed's been doing this for a long time and eventually it's going to blow up in our faces. And then you think, well, maybe this is that time. What would you say to that type of fearful thinking?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wouldn't worry about I don't think we're going to see another 2008 style crash anytime soon. From a demographic standpoint, you have a lot of people who are about to retire, both in the US and overseas, that have underfunded retirements, and they've been watching the stock market run up and up without them. So I think every time you get a 10 or 20% correction, you're going to have a lot of money on the sidelines flowing in from bonds to stocks, just because people need returns. People's retirements are so badly underfunded now. And on top of that, the economic fundamentals are pretty good, at least in the US. The economy is legitimately strong. Corporate earnings are doing great things, and assuming the tax cut passes, that will provide even more firepower for earnings. And so I think stocks are overvalued, but the economy has strong fundamentals.
I wonder if it's one of those things where, well, how much do you factor sentiment into your decision making?
On what time frame?
Well, I would say anytime you're making buy decisions. Like, for example, I know that you make your decisions more based upon like micro, like looking at stock specific valuation opportunities as opposed to overall markets. But obviously, if markets are looking extremely frothy, that's going to impact every micro decision as well. And the idea in terms of an overall market cycle where it starts in pessimism and ends in euphoria, and for years, we've been climbing the wall of worry, and people have been having the fears I just mentioned as far as what the Fed's doing, or what is the economy really getting better, and they've been keeping on the sidelines, like you mentioned, as asset prices continue to increase. I guess maybe it's one of those self-fulfilling prophecies where people have been avoiding getting in because everyone's afraid, but because everyone's afraid, that means it's still a good time to get in. Does that sound?
Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah, we haven't seen a point where popular society has gotten really excited about investing in stocks again. Certainly not to the extent that we did in 1999.
So really, until you see something really for you to have any kind of concern over overall market conditions, one, there'd have to be some kind of a black swan event that we can't anticipate anyway. And so trying to game that is probably not a good idea. And then the other thing would be if you see this extreme froth like you're seeing, for example, right now in, I won't give examples because I don't want to be wrong in the future. But, you know what I'm talking about? Like, for example, like right now, cryptocurrencies, you've got everyone around me asking me advice about these things. And regardless of whether or not they're a great investment long term, that's beside the point right now. It's hard to make an argument against the fact that they're very frothy. And so that's kind of a very tangible dynamic. So I guess short of seeing that type of frothiness, you don't really see a lot of reason to worry about the U.S. markets.
What I would say is maybe, let's say, fair value for the S&P 500 is around 2,000, 2,100, somewhere around there in earnings. And so we're maybe 20% overvalued. However, I don't think you're going to see the market go straight from a long bull market with economic expansion to panic. And so the odds of us actually hitting fair value, let alone going under it in the near term, are quite low. And so sure, if you're buying the S&P today at 2,700, you could easily see 23, 2,400 next year as it gets a lot closer to fair value. But I don't think the sort of crash doom stuff, you need to be worried, because the S&P 500 has made a lot of fundamental progress in terms of earnings power.
Well, that's encouraging to hear.
The information and opinions contained on this podcast are for educational purposes only. The information does not consider the economic status or risk profile of any specific person. The information and opinions expressed should not be construed as investment trading advice and does not constitute an offer or an invitation to make an offer to buy and sell securities.